Can we have everyone settle down, please? We'd like to start. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Voyage 2024. What an atmosphere. Are you all excited? Are you all excited? Because I surely am. It's the 10th edition of Voyage, and we at Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund have been extremely passionate about Voyage ever since we began this in 2014. And hasn't it lived up to its name? Every year, bringing thought leaders from across the spectrum, adding value to each one of us from the field of politics, from the field of academics, from the field of investments, from the field of sports, every domain. And there's been so much to learn from. And after 4 long years, we are assembled here once again in the physical avatar. It's really very, very encouraging and energizing to have all of us in person. Now, you know that Voyage is one of the most sought after events in the industry itself. And we've made sure that you have enough learning, engagement, opportunities for networking, and also some fun while you interact with us over the next 2 days. But this evening, the curtain raiser for Voyage 2024 itself sets the ball rolling with an interesting lineup for the evening. Without taking much time, may I now invite on stage Mr. Manish Thakkar, Deputy Head, Retail Sales and Distribution, Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC, to give his welcome address. Mr. Manish Thakkar.
Very good evening and namaste to each and every one of you gathered here. It's a profound honor and a distinct privilege to extend a warm welcome to all as we inaugurate the landmark 10th edition of our annual investment conclave, Voyage. Today is not just another day, it's a milestone for us, marking our 30th year in the business. The presence of each one of you here make this celebration all the more joyous. Reflecting on the passage of time, the words of Alice Walker resonate with us. Time moves slowly but passes quickly. Looking back to 2014, I am filled with gratitude as I remember the inception of Voyage, a pioneering initiative designed to share our investment philosophy, our dedicated team, and our aspirations for the future. Voyage is more than an annual event. It embodies our steadfast dedication, our unwavering commitment to progress, and our cherished partnership with each one of you. The year 2014 marked the dawn of a new epoch for both our industry and our nation. With the election of a new government, we witnessed the foundation being laid for a new Bharat. A Bharat that has not only fueled our economy's ascent, but also elevated our nation's standing on the global stage. Today, as we celebrate the exponential growth in assets under management, folio counts, and the growth in the systematic investment book, we reflect upon a decade of transformation that has refined our country from one of the fragile 5 to being among the world's top 5 economies. The narrative of India's evolution, characterized by groundbreaking initiatives that have empowered its citizens and fortified our economy, is interwoven with the story of ABSL AMC. As our nation has written a new chapter of remarkable growth and swift development, so has ABS LMC grown stronger, more astute, and ready to take on the challenges of an evolving landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, the journey of India vis-à-vis Bharat today mirrors the transformation trajectory of ABSL AMC. We stand today more robust and incisive, with a promise that our team is well equipped for the next grand leap into the future. The agenda for the next 2 days has been carefully curated to explore investing opportunities in a dominant Bharat, promising a voyage filled with profound insights and learning. As I draw my address to a close, I reiterate my sincere gratitude for your steadfast support and extend hearty congratulations to you and to all my colleagues for our past successes and the achievements that lie ahead of us. Our business means collaboration, and you are a very important part of this journey. So once again, a big applause to all of you. I would like to share our years of partnership and bonding through this AV. Please do have a look.
In the world of financial dreams, Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund stands as your ally, transforming aspirations into reality. Our dedicated network of distributors plays a pivotal role in this journey, supporting our distributors for growth, development, and fostering partnerships. Your journey to excellence starts here. At Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, we are committed to amplify mutual fund penetration in India. Our mutual fund distributors are pivotal in achieving this. The Privilege Club, our structured loyalty program, honors their performance, making India truly Atmanirbhar. 13 years ago, we embarked on a journey to redefine recognition and strengthen bonds within the mutual fund distribution community. The Privilege Club proudly boasts over 25,000 members across 278 unique locations. Prioritizing well-being, we offer medical insurance benefits with 6,385 distributors covered, including 12,517 family members. During the pandemic, we settled over 750 claims amounting to rupees 3.56 crores. Additionally, 5,030 distributors are covered under life insurance, settling over 90 claims with a payout of rupees 2.4 crores during the challenging times. At Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, your health and security are our priorities. Privilege Club honors distributors' children with academic excellence through child scholarships with over 1,700 awarded, totaling rupees 2.50 crores. Along with securing distributors' retirement with the Golden Age Plan, 5,814 distributors are already benefiting, along with offering the health and wellness programs at organizations like Isha Foundation and Art of Living.
Thank you so much. The bond doesn't stop here. I think there is some technical glitch. We are restarting. Just give us a moment, please. Thank you so much.
Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund stands as your ally, transforming aspirations into reality. Our dedicated network of distributors plays a pivotal role in this journey, supporting our distributors for growth, development, and fostering partnerships. Your journey to excellence starts here. At Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, we are committed to amplify mutual fund penetration in India. Our mutual fund distributors are pivotal in achieving this. The Privilege Club, our structured loyalty program, honors their performance, making India truly Atmanirbhar. 13 years ago, we embarked on a journey to redefine recognition and strengthen bonds within the mutual fund distribution community. The Privilege Club proudly boasts over 25,000 members across 278 unique locations. Prioritizing well-being, we offer medical insurance benefits with 6,385 distributors covered, including 12,517 family members. During the pandemic, we settled over 750 claims amounting to rupees 3.56 crores. Additionally, 5,030 distributors are covered under life insurance, settling over 90 claims dreams with a payout of rupees 2.4 crores during the challenging times. At Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, your health and security are our priorities. Privilege Club honors distributors' children with academic excellence through child scholarships with over 1,700 awarded, totaling rupees 2.50 crores. Along with securing distributors' retirement with the Golden Age Plan, 5,814 distributors are already benefiting. Along with offering the health and wellness programs at organizations like Isha Foundation and Art of Living. Investor Education Distributor Development Program, where education meets empowerment. We have introduced Nippon Learning Academy, transcending boundaries to nurture our esteemed channel partners for over a decade. Initiatives, over 10,000 investor education programs, and impactful community engagement like For Her, Fauji Nivesh, and My First Paycheck. We're not just leaders, we're transformers. Into 50 plus locations, the Nippon Academy conducts 5,000 plus programs, reaching several lakh partners with curated content. Our certification programs are a mark of excellence, recognizing partners for their commitment. Nippon Academy of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, educating, empowering, and engaging partners for a brighter future. At Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, Legacy Leap is more than a program, it's a commitment to crafting a legacy for your next generation.
Thank you, Aditya Birla, for this great learning opportunity.
Past 3 days, it has been a good experience and things that can help me grow my business.
These people have made the program and the learning very interactive and made sure that whatever we need to grow as a leader, it has been provided to us.
Looking forward to more such programs. Thank you.
We believe in ensuring that your journey doesn't just end but evolves. As your next generation steps into the future, Legacy Leap becomes their guide. It helps redefine business initiatives, adopt a new mindset, and expand their capacity, ensuring they thrive in an ever-changing landscape. We assist your next generation in navigating conflicts with finesse, building enduring customer relationships, and mastering the art of strategic planning. Legacy Leap isn't just a program, it's their compass to success. Empowering the future of mutual fund distribution, one success story at a time.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, once again for everything that you've done for us, for the industry. I can't thank you enough for what you've contributed to our journey all these years. I must also tell you that we are committed to extend our bonding, our partnership beyond this generation through Legacy Leap. Now, without any further delay, I have the pleasure of inviting my colleague, Shiv Kumar, to carry forward the proceedings of the evening. Thank you once again, and I wish you all an enlightening and a memorable voyage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manish, for those wonderful words. To take the conversation forward, as you know, the theme for this year's Voyage is investing opportunities in a dominant Bharat. It's a very well thought out theme, given the general discourse and narrative that is almost undisputed about Bharat and its dominance in the world order. And to take this conversation right at the beginning, we have a very interesting and special guest who has joined us this evening. May I welcome on stage Miss Palki Sharma. Miss Palki Sharma is an award-winning journalist and managing editor at First Post at Network 18, India's biggest network with 20 channels in 15 languages and 700 million viewers per month. Under her leadership, First Post has become one of India's fastest growing news platforms. First Post, her show Vantage is the most watched English primetime news show with more than 60% viewership outside India. Ms. Sharma has interviewed world leaders and heads of states, Nobel laureates, and the who's who. As an international journalist, Ms. Palki Sharma has reported from the ground on key events and stories like the ongoing Ukraine conflict, the Israel-Hamas war, Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US, the Quad summits in Tokyo and Washington, and several others. Her coverage of the pandemic and the sharp commentary on China's role has won her a global following. With a career spanning over 22 years and stints at WION, the ITV network, CNN-IBN, Doordarshan News, and the Hindustan Times newspaper, she has a varied experience and a very rich one at that. From geopolitics to climate change to space missions and social trends, Ms. Sharma tracks a range of news stories that interest and impact people and shape our collective future. Now, to draw a lot of insight from her and to make this a very interesting conversation, we have Mr. Bhavdi Bhatt, Head Sales Alternate and PMS, Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC, who will come up on stage and join Ms. Sharma for this conversation. Mr. Bhatt has been a part of our organization since March 2008. He brings with him 28 years of total experience, of which 23 years are in the asset management space. He has had a variety of roles that he has held, including products and communication, business development, institutional sales, and most recently, the retail sales vertical. He's also been part of the industry in organizations like the Kotak Mahindra AMC in the past and ICICI Prudential AMC too. With a career spanning over 28 years, Bhavdeep has led several first-of-its-kind innovative products across asset classes that have led to a number of accolades. He has been pivotal in the launch of 33 products within equity structure and alternate product space, aggregating mobilization of over 20,000 crores across 1.5 million retail and HNI investors. To make this evening special, I hand over the stage to Bhavdi Bhatt and Ms. Palki Sharma. Over to you.
Thank you, Shiv, for the kind introduction, and good evening, everyone. So we have a very special guest today. Can we have the slightly more energetic, response? Good evening, everyone. Now this is like Voyage energy, right? Which we were actually missing for the last 4 years now. And in this physical avatar, we are meeting after 4 years, and really looking forward to this 1.5 day session with all of you. Not only exchanging notes and insights, but also exchanging energy, and that's what really is Voyage all about. So, and I also want to thank you before we talk to Palki and really look at her worldview. I also want to thank you, as Manish rightly mentioned. Without you and your support over the years, we wouldn't have been as an organization that we are right now, with close to 3.5 lakh crore of AUM and lakhs of customers. So thank you so much for your support over the years, and I think the gratitude is overdue simply because for the last 4 years we couldn't do it in this format. So thank you so much for your support over the years. So moving to Palki, thank you so much for joining us today evening, and very warm welcome to you to Voyage 2024 Curtain Raiser event. And before we kind of look at the world and various topics through your lens, let me just introduce you to the format of what Voyage is and a little bit about our audience. So Voyage is an annual investment conclave that we have been organizing, as Manish mentioned, since 2014. And this is the 10th edition of this conclave. And the idea behind this format is to create a platform wherein some of the top partners of our business come from different parts of the country, and we provide them a platform to draw insights from the leaders and experts like yourselves from across, the topics, whether it's the economy, whether it's the geopolitics, politics, digital, markets, etc. And this is about the format and this 10th year of it. And second thing is about the audience. You'll be happy to know that collectively, the assets under management that the invitees of Voyage 2024 manages currently is more than 500,000 crore, 5 lakh crore of assets under management. And managing investments for millions of customers across the breadth of the country. So I think that's what this audience is all about today, and we're very happy to have you with us. But in financial services, Palki, it always starts from KYC, and today you are our captain, okay, of this voyage for the next 75 minutes, and we would like to kind of know a little bit about you in terms of your personal and professional journey. I'm sure that given the kind of personal branding that you have created through your work over the years, many youngsters who have been following journalism as the career option, you are the role model for them, or they are kind of look up to you. But through this journey over the last many years, I'm sure you would have multiple milestones and learnings along the way. Why don't we just start from knowing our captain? So KYC is what it stands for. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the warm words and for having me here, and thank you all for making it this evening to listen to me. The thing I like about such events is that once you're all here, you cannot change the channel. So you have to listen to me for as long as we decide to talk. But no, very kind of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. You asked me about my journey. I also want to say at the outset that if any youngster chooses journalism, I'm not going to be blamed. That has to be their decision. It's not an easy career, but I guess none is. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. For my own more than 2 decades in journalism and in my professional life, the things that I've learned are that there is no shortcut. I mean, it's going to sound like so cliched, but it's true. There is no shortcut to hard work and hustle. I know that these days a lot of people talk about stress and work-life balance, and I'm one of them, and I believe in that. But I think there is a phase in your life where you really have to hit the 5th gear and stay there. I don't believe in planning everything well in advance. I'm sure there are people who are very smart who know that at the age of 25 they'll achieve this, and at the age of 35 they'll have this, and 45. For me, even if you plan it like that, it doesn't always work out. So I think the way to do it, and in my experience, the best of careers in any field have been built on the ability to make the most of any opportunity that presents itself to you. You have to be ready. People are not lucky or unlucky. You make your luck along the way. You may have worked very hard for 10 years with no one recognizing you, but suddenly something will come up, and all of that hard work will suddenly start paying off. So you have to, hang in there till then. There is no perfect opportunity. If you wait for the perfect setting, then you will lose it all. I think success stories are stories of people who make the most of an imperfect situation. We're covering the Russia-Ukraine war. We've been tracking, and we often call it a frozen conflict and a war of attrition, which basically means that the other side is trying to wear you down. And I think in life, we are all fighting that war of attrition. That challenges will keep coming your way, and you have to you will not win all of them. You will win some, you'll lose some, but you keep at it. So if you survive in that battlefield, then you're a winner. So I think that's my
mantra. Okay,
yes.
So plan as well as be resilient about the opportunities as they kind of keep coming, and be at it in terms of optimizing from whatever is available. Now, Palki, just one thing that is true for all of us, and also true for our partners, is the fact that there's so much of content getting created and being floated. And even for so what's true for us in terms of our business is also true for you. I mean, you have to remain updated regarding all the developments that are happening across regions and across topics. So what is your mantra? How do you go about remaining updated and informed about whatever is happening in the surroundings, and really cutting out the noise and really focusing on what's really important to kind of curate, highlight, and kind of project to the masses?
I consume a lot of content, but most of it is the written word. I read a lot from any source that comes my way. But I think you're asking about curation. So one is reading the stories that you do, or the news that you pick up, or the content that you consume. And second is using some of it that makes it to your show, right? I think it applies everywhere. If you're selling a product, then you ask yourself, will I buy it? if I'm convinced, if I will put my money in it, then I will be able to sell it with that kind of conviction. Similarly for a story, if I'm doing a 5-minute story and if I were the viewer after a long day at work, will I at 9:30 p.m. sit and spend 5 minutes on the story? If I'll not watch it, then I'll not tell it. So that's the thumb rule that we follow. I have a very good team, and every time they pitch, and they pitch a lot of stories, and they shoot down some of mine, and they're like, this is not exciting enough. And but the question we all ask ourselves is that, will I watch the story I'm writing today? If I'll not watch it, then I'll not write it.
If SEBI were listening, if they would just love this point, because we have been insisting on eating or your own cooking, right? So in the sense that if it doesn't make sense to you to consume your own products or services, better don't sell that. So I think that's a very nice perspective and a reminder of what we actually need to do. Now, there is one dilemma, Palki, what you might be having in your field of work, and which I'm sure all our partners and all of us have, is to kind of give people choosing between what people want and what people need. Right? I mean, in our world, for example, just to kind of contextualize our business, I mean, most of our partners would know and feel that their customers might not need the small cap funds right now necessarily, but just because people want it. So we have to kind of keep striking a balance between what they want and what they need. How do you go about it? Because even in your field of work, there's so much content, and people would want certain thing, and what could be useful for them could be slightly different. So how do you go about deciding what to kind of share with them?
I think it's a very tricky one, because we're all taught that consumer is king, but I think the king also needs some education sometimes, right? You have to tell them, and you have to very nicely tell them, because they are...
But then they switch channel, what do you do?
Yes, so the onus is never on them, the onus is on you.
Okay.
I think that's where trust comes in. That's where a relationship comes in. That the gentleman there said that you'd never change the channel. So I'm hoping that when I tell you a story that you may not be very interested in, you'll still give it a shot. You'll give me a chance to tell that story and try to figure out why I'm telling it. For us, there's climate change, there's women's issues, sometimes we are tracking social trends. And you know, in an age where everything is being targeted at individuals, you know. Social media algorithms are like that. What you like will appear on your feed. The same is expected in, I'm sure, the product that you're selling. The same is expected from us. So how do you widen the net? You tell stories that you know are going to be sure shot hits. Iran fires something in Pakistan, I know people are going to watch. Right? But when I say that climate change is making your coffee more expensive, then a lot of people will switch channels. So I'm going to have to strike a balance between the two. Maybe start with the stories that will really attract people and hope that they will stay for the stories that they do not find exciting. But I'm also of a firm belief that when you start telling stories that are really important, you start a conversation, and if it converts one person, then it's a story worth telling. The same happened with us during the pandemic. When we started, it was about some disease spreading in some city, tier 2 city in China. Why should people care? But we thought that there was something in it. So it started as maybe the 7th story in our rundown, slowly moved up with each passing week, and then it became the story for the next 2 years. So you have to follow your gut, and if you think it's important, then as a show of honesty and a sense of responsibility towards your viewer who depends on you to be informed, you have to tell the story and take that risk.
To be true to yourself and create content which will be kind of which is right, first of all, which you would like to consume, and you just serve them. So one part is what do you serve, or what kind of stories you create, one, and number two is how do you do the storytelling, because that's something which is common across all business people here, and what you do for in your field of work as well. How do you go about creating stories? How do you go about doing storytelling? And is there any framework or a kind of a pattern to it, which our partners could kind of take a cue from?
We have a list of boxes that stories should ideally tick in terms of, I've told you about the subjects and so on and so forth, but the format of how do you put together a story. I have been reading and researching a lot on what makes a compelling story and how do you persuade a listener or a reader. And I've said this in the past, that Aristotle wrote about some mantras on effective communication, you know, and he talked about, one was ethos. When you build credibility, when you know that that if it's mutual funds, for instance, if you build credibility, then the person who wants to invest the money will think that if Aditya Birla Sun Life has done it, it must be good. You know. Similarly, for us, if we have built domain expertise in certain subjects, then I know when G20 happens, I will get more viewership. The viewer will come to me. You know, that is one thing that you build. Second is logos, as he put it, or reason. You have to appeal to logic. And that comes with data, with research, with numbers. I know data can be twisted, but I still feel that numbers carry a certain weight. And when you add it to your argument, then it becomes a stronger argument. The third for us is pathos, which is emotion, and not the kind of emotional outburst that you see on primetime TV. I'm talking about, you know, building a relationship and effectively communicating. So I think if you have these tools when you put together your story, metaphor, for instance, I'm telling you that X person sold this many acres of land to Y person. A viewer may not be able to make sense, but if you say that this land was the size of 2 football fields, then it's easier for you to process. So you use metaphor, and I'm also a firm believer of keeping things short. Brevity is the soul of wit. I try to stick to small sentences because, you know, we have a hard drive, it can only process so much.
So much at a time.
So you have to respect other people's attention if they're giving it to you, and make your point quickly.
So it's as much, I mean, it's not only an art, which, I think it deserves an applause actually. Because most of the time we assume that storytelling is a bit of an art, but there is some science to it, the way you kind of go about it, and also there's some structure to it, the way, and you can, actually it's a learnable skill in that sense, right? I also see you putting a lot of kind of importance and emphasis on the research that you do for any subject. Now, particularly, for example, your Russia-Ukraine coverage, and I think she kind of that video had kind of got viewership of more than some 2.3 crore people across the world. So I think that there was wonderful work, and we need to give a big round of applause. So very original research and original views she kind of brought about. And by the way, I think she spoke about it, but 60% of her followers are from outside of India. So I think that's the kind of viewership and the followership she has across the world. Now in the present day world, Palki, we are seeing that perception is a reality. And narrative building is becoming increasingly a passionate subject for many people. Where are you in terms of the utility of narrative building, and particularly even if it is kind of moving slightly away, twisting reality to some extent, but something which has a mass appeal, and as long as many people kind of rally behind you with the same narrative, it kind of works more. Do you think that that's how you would interpret this narrative building exercise that's going on for the last, at least for the last few years, since the popularity of social media? There are a lot of efforts going around, irrespective of reality, whether you can create certain narratives which are positive for your field of work or your business, etc. Where are you in terms of that?
I think narrative building is a very, very, very important aspect of statecraft. It is central to how the world perceives you, and it's very important to be in control of your narrative. And it's not always about twisting the facts. You may have read or heard of the story about the elephant and 5 people with their eyes blindfolded. They were asked to go and touch the elephant, and the person who touched the tail said that this is like a broom or something. The one who touched the leg said that this is a pillar. So these are all different truths. Which truth do you choose to highlight? Becomes, and narratives, I'll tell you why they're important. For instance,
the Mahabharat example, in one of your interviews, I heard that Mahabharat story of how the narrative was
that
created.
was one, but in the current context, if I were to say, so there's a lot of, yes, there is pollution in Delhi, for example. There is pollution for various reasons, and it needs to be fixed. But when that is all that the media talks about, the Western media, then what happens? We suddenly hear stories about embassies giving advisories to their diplomats to not venture out in Delhi. Bigger companies saying, don't go to India because our top management will not go because their health is at risk. India is much bigger than New Delhi. And pollution is not an India-specific problem. It's everywhere. But the narrative takes hold. And then the impact is not just on the store. I mean, the impact can be much beyond you would have imagined. Similarly, Kashmir. You know, some schools are gutted. There is some violence. There is some stone pelting. And you feel that the youth in Kashmir do not want to go to school because they're upset. But there are a lot of other young people in Kashmir who want to study. So what I'm saying is that when we're not in control of our narrative, then someone else is telling our story in a way that suits them. Right? It's, for instance, the West talks about NATO and shared values. We did this story yesterday. Ukraine wanted a NATO membership. They've been at war for 2 years and they've lost some 31,000 soldiers. Sweden wanted a NATO membership. They had to just give some Gripen jets and some money, and they are a NATO member today. So where are shared values? And yet the West will tell you that we will make only those countries NATO members that share our values of democracy and free speech. But it's not like that. But we buy it because we are not questioning it. Someone else comes and wants to be an election observer and say this is not a free and fair election. How many times are we sending observers to, say, a US? I also want to go and see how fair your election is. So I'm saying that it's all cause and effect, and I think it starts with how you view yourself, first of all. What is the narrative that you're selling? Do you have the confidence? And then can you tell the rest of the world with that same confidence that this is where I stand and this is my story? I don't know if this is the answer to your question. But
no, I think it is true that it doesn't have to twist reality all the time. You just pick up the thread that you really believe in. You have confidence in terms of narrating, creating and narrating that story, and you just go about it, and there's just nothing right or wrong about it. So now let's talk about Bharat. Our theme for this voyage is investing opportunities in a dominant Bharat. And in India, in Bharat, I think the master narrative is changing for sure. I think the average Indian's confidence level actually has gone up over the last few years. And when we talk about the confidence level, whether it's about, for example, DBT, many people, recently I was hearing that this direct benefit transfer has done transformation on that side, because there is a tangible benefit that person can associate with being Bharatiya, with the identity or sense of belongingness of that. What do you think about the idea of Dominant Bharat? What's Dominant Bharat mean to you?
I'm not sure if you're using the word dominant, but I think there's a resurgence. There is I always believe that, or I've always said that of late we've seen a shift in our attitude, first of all, towards ourselves.
Yeah.
For me, a Bharat that stands its ground is a country that can do business with Russia, but can also be a member of the Quad, can also host the G20 summit, can be an observer at the G7, can go and shake hands and hug the US president, our leadership. At the same time, keep buying oil and weapons from the Russians. I think it's about stating very clearly that these are our interests, and we shall not compromise on our interests. So that to me is important, and I think this is not just at the leadership level. It is amongst individuals, young people who go out, who talk about their culture. I think taking pride in your culture and your country has come 7 decades too late to us, but it has
totally
come.
Agree. Absolutely.
I remember reading somewhere that when we became an independent country in 1947, as an economy we were in a very bad place. We had been looted and plundered. As a military, we were nowhere. But we had a lot of soft power. You know, we had a moral high ground. We used ahimsa to drive away one of the biggest militaries in the world, that was Britain. And we had the wealth of civilizational richness. You know, we were the land of peace. And that positioning alone made India a formidable player. So even then we were trying to broker peace in the Korean Peninsula. We were trying to build a non-aligned movement. We had nothing. So we were punching above our weight.
Yeah.
From there, I think somewhere we lost the way. And we are finding that way now. And now we've got a mix of hard and soft power. So we are giving the world yoga, we are giving the world Bollywood, we are giving the world Ayurveda, we are giving the world UPI now. We are also, when the need arises, carrying out surgical strikes in Pakistan. And we are also the fastest growing, among the fastest growing economies in the world. So I think this mix of, you know, both the powers is what puts India in such a sweet spot.
Sure. I think it's a very interesting perspective, and I'm sure all of us are proud of the strategic autonomy that we have been kind of, practicing and kind of developing over time. The way I think we are navigating alliances without having any ideological biases or dogmas, and as you rightly mentioned, we get invited at White House, and at the same time we continue buying oil from Russia. But do you think, just as a devil's advocate, do you think it can also be interpreted as an or position us as an unreliable opportunist, because we are friends with everyone without any principled friendship?
I think a lot of people have said that for countries, interests are paramount, and values and principles can be compromised on. I think the policy that India is following right now is one where we are not trying to instigate anyone. We are not making any conflict worse. Standing up, we've said, if you give the example of Ukraine, we've said that this is not the age for war. But the countries that have taken a tough position seemingly have not really helped anybody's case. At the end of the day, 31,000 Ukrainian soldiers have died. Donald Trump may take the White House by this time next year, and he says, attack the NATO countries who are not paying their bills. He doesn't care. So at least we've not made a bad situation worse. They have. Yesterday, the French president said that we will not rule out the idea of putting troops on the ground in Ukraine. Such statements do not help. And India has always said that we are not going to be boxed into alliances. Because this whole world order, this whole system was built by the West to suit the needs of the West. Why should we, if we are all talking about principles, then the biggest democracy in the world should have a place at the high table at the United Nations Security Council. We don't have it. As we speak, commerce ministers of various countries are meeting for WTO in Abu Dhabi. And Europeans say that we want to impose a carbon tax on companies. So anybody importing in Europe will have to pay a 20 to 35% carbon tax. I'm giving you a very specific example. So those companies should build in Europe. But there is no study says that if you build those same products in Europe, it will be less, the carbon emissions will be lesser. It's the same. You're basically following a protectionist policy and you're dressing it up in the guise of a carbon-friendly policy. You know, that is my problem. That in the name of values, in the name of doing the right thing, you do the thing that suits you.
Correct. Now that's a smart narrative, I think, the way you are articulating that part, that we're just serving our nation first. We are not being we are not taking a stand which will necessarily cost anyone anything, but we are optimizing our nation's interest first, and there is
Our
absolutely
rise is
nothing
peaceful.
wrong. Yeah, and peaceful, absolutely.
Unfortunately, China said it.
Yeah. So
Used to
since
call
you-
their rise peaceful earlier, but yeah.
So since you mentioned about China, let me just pick it up from there that these days there's a lot, and anyways, for the last, I think, 20 years, there has been a little bit of comparison with India and China. Of course, the scale is much larger, but there are experts who believe that India's next 25 years are likely to be China's past 25 years. Now, the point is that in terms of demographics, we are placed very differently compared to China as we speak right now. I heard one professor say that China's demography, I mean, it's likely to kind of degrow from 140 crore population now to about 100 crores over the next 2025 during our Amrit Kal essentially. And we all know that 27-year-old thinks very differently, thinks and behaves very differently compared to 40-year-old. So we are 27-year-old if we just look at our average age compared to China's 39 years. How do you, where are you in terms of your stand and idea in terms of India's future being like China's past in terms of economic prosperity?
We can never be China, and thank God for it, because we are a democracy. So China will see a very sharp rise, or did see a rise, because if one person sitting in Beijing has decided that going forward this is the law, then this is the law. The Chinese military is very big, but do you know that China spends more on internal security than on securing its borders?
That's very interesting.
Because the leadership is paranoid and they're worried that there may be some sort of uprising that will challenge their authority. In India, even if some leader wants to, they cannot do it. Because we are a democracy, we will never grow at that pace. You know, there's a reason why we call India the elephant. We are chaotic. We will go at our own pace, but it'll be sustained with the right policy intervention, hopefully. Right? So, in a democracy, there is a mess, and it's a mess whose price we should be ready to pay, because it's worth it.
What do you think is the cost of democracy in that sense, in terms of economic growth? Is just 2-3% of GDP, your growth could be lower compared to China, and that should be fine because you don't bring in the fragility of the autocratic country that China is, for example. Would you put it that way? Because even we have farmers' protests, right? But maybe in India, the small protests are so many, but there is no suppressed protest as such, and therefore we don't have the fragility that maybe China has.
For all that the Chinese state has done, look where they are. That debt bubble is about to burst. They're looking at intervening. They're getting the state banks. Local governments are going under. So it has not necessarily delivered, right? It was a bubble that is bursting. I'm not saying our model is the best, but it's definitely better than that one. And when you say growth, I would say that we do not measure growth just in monetary terms, you know, even poverty. Now they're talking about multidimensional poverty. It's not just per capita income and so on. You're looking at whether you can put your child to a good school. What sort of medical care do you have? What sort of quality of life do you have? So governments are increasingly looking at multidimensional poverty, and in that sense, I think the freedom to choose, even if it's a bad choice, is a freedom worth protecting. So while the farmers are making some really absurd demands, including scrap all free trade agreements and get out of the WTO, it's not going to happen. But I think the fact that this government or this country and our constitution guarantees them that choice is something that we should celebrate, because that is eventually that is going to keep the balance of power in our country or in any democracy. It goes through its periods of chaos, but at the end of the day, it all balances itself out. So even if the Chinese model were to give us a 15% growth, we should not ask for that.
Yeah. Multidimensional growth is what you are talking about, more qualitative, more balanced growth.
Yes, and income inequalities need to be addressed. People need to have that space to say that this is what I want for myself, and I'm an individual, and I have the right to make that choice within certain parameters of the law, of course.
Interesting, interesting. And Bharat is now, as we know, is increasingly kind of being discussed as the consensus builder in the global, on the global stage, particularly at a time when the world is getting increasingly divided. Do you think it's just a political gimmickry, or you really see a real emergence of India's role in terms of what it can do as a consensus builder?
I think India is definitely in a position to be a consensus builder. What's even more important is that you see a lot of countries, like when the Russian, they call the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but nobody ever says America invaded Iraq. They say the Iraq war and then the invasion. But yeah, that's
very convenient for them, yeah.
So just before the attack began, we saw a lot of leaders go to Moscow to talk to President Putin. That is one kind of intervention which is very public, which is more for the cameras, because nothing is going to be achieved and Putin is going to make you sit across a very long table and it'll just be a good picture for the world to laugh at. Then there is constructive intervention. For instance, when our neighbor Sri Lanka was down in the dumps, India actively intervened, sent assistance worth $4 billion. When Sri Lanka's biggest debtor, China, creditor rather, did not change anything to support them, India did. We talked to the IMF. I think that constructive intervention, which doesn't get talked about very much, but brings real change to the ground, is something that India is capable of doing. Bringing the African Union into the G20, again, is a very, very important move. So India is in a position to play the role of a bridging power, definitely. Where it chooses to exercise that power is a call that India is taking. I mean, a lot of people tried to pull us into what's happening in West Asia, but India has sort of steered clear. We're being the first responders in the Red Sea, Arabian Sea, and Gulf of Aden, and we're helping ships. But we're not sitting at the table with Qatar and Egypt and the US and saying, end the war now. So I think
there's a real opportunity, you mean, for India to actually play this role of consensus builder.
Yeah, I don't know if you should get your hands dirty in every conflict.
Yeah.
You have to pick and choose.
Not the US way, yeah, for sure. So now, for the last 23 odd years that I've been associated with mutual fund industry, I've heard this term decoupling for a very, very long period of time. And now at this point in time, India is being seen as a global growth engine at a time when there is a sluggishness in terms of economic growth globally. Do you see this decoupling really kind of being real and really sustainable? Because the K-shaped recovery and the I remember, I mean, it was the term. It became very popular when the BRICS term. That term was kind of got coined in early 2000s, and people used to say that emerging markets are going to see growth and developed countries are going to kind of see slower growth or even stagnant growth. Where are you in terms of your views on this entire decoupling conversation for economic growth?
Decoupling is at the risk of becoming the new, just purely in terms of terms, terrorism. Everybody wants to fight terrorism, but the world, the United Nations does not have a definition of terrorism because we can't agree. Similarly, with decoupling, governments cannot agree whether they want to decouple or de-risk or diversify, or what are they trying to do. Basically, they want to contain the threat that China poses. But what they want to call it, and some are calling it friendshoring and so on and so forth. I think India stands to gain definitely, and to a certain extent it is happening. The de-risking is happening. Companies are moving out, they are looking for alternatives. But are all those alternatives benefiting India? I'm not so sure. I think we need to do a lot more to make ourselves conducive as the choice. Countries like Vietnam are stealing the march on us in some ways. Some of it is coming to India as well, because the sentiment in the Chinese market, for instance, is so bad that a lot of that money is coming into India and so on. So yes, there is some, but we need to do a lot more to capitalize on this shift, and it is going to happen. It is not necessarily very good for globalization, because increasingly countries are looking at what happens when another calamity strikes. Why should I depend? But you cannot build everything on your own. You will have to depend. And what may be a like-minded country and a friend today may not be a friend tomorrow. The next election, something changes and you have a leader that you don't like, and he or she takes the country in another direction. That's where democracies like ours come in, where policy continuity is ensured.
Absolutely.
So yes, decoupling, de-risking is happening for sure, but it's going to be a very long process. It's not easy. I mean, we want to minimize our threat from China, but our trade keeps growing every year. How do you explain that?
Correct. I think what started as a globalization since mid-90s maybe, and over the 25 years that the world has seen growth and the efficiency, whether it's a lower inflation, lower interest rate, the general growth, simply because it's a lot more efficient to kind of do what you are best at rather than comparative advantage of economic concept, right? So let me just now kind of turn to future trends and your views, your worldview on that side. So I was just talking to one expert on generative AI, Gen AI, and he beautifully articulated that it took about 5,000 years for mankind to kind of graduate from invention of wheel to invention of bicycle. If generative AI had this project, it would do in a fraction of time. What's your assessment of the impact of Gen AI in terms of the productivity, in terms of the employment generation, and generally on the mankind? I mean, just a larger question of its potential opportunities and threats.
Very honestly, I have immense tech anxiety. I'm not very good. There are times when I start worrying if I have to join a Teams call because I don't know how it's going. I know it's not the best thing to say. I struggle with technology, but I know technology is the future. I think AI is also the future, whether we like it or not. So it's best to accept it and be on top of the curve. Right now we're not. I think governments all over the world, especially in India, are at the risk of making the same mistake that we did some 20 years back when social media burst on the scene. We thought it's just some people poking each other and saying hi on a Facebook wall. It has become so much more than that. And we did not, or the policymakers did not think it was serious enough, so they did not make the policies required or the guardrails required to regulate it. What has happened is that social media has become so big that it can alter our idea of truth, it can influence elections, it can cause wars. AI is going to be 10 times more powerful than that. And governments are playing catch up. We don't know. Our policymakers don't understand it. They struggle to take printouts, a lot of these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they don't know what AI is capable of doing. I think what we need is to get a real understanding of where, this latest thing that have come out with the video.
The deepfake video.
The OpenAI has come up. I did a story. I forgot the name.
Okay. Deepfake,
no,
but it's about which story?
Sora, correct. So you give an input and then it'll make a video. It's very scary.
Yeah.
It's going to change the way we work. It's going to take away jobs for sure. It will also create more jobs. This is a disruption. If we logically understand, analyze, and deal with it, we'll come out fine. If we don't, then it will dictate our future.
Whether the creation will challenge the creator is the key question. And but I think mankind generally, people are
Thankfully, I also did a story on Gen Alpha. These are children who were born after 2010, 2010 to 2024. Now this generation was 2010 was also the year when the word of the year was app, and iPad was introduced. So when we were kids, parents used to give us pacifiers. For these children, you give them a screen, an iPad. So they are much more at ease with technology, and I'm sure they'll find a way to deal with this as well. But you and I will struggle.
So now, I mean, we are not used to, as the stakeholders and the community, we are not very comfortable not talking about market for so long. So let me just bring the market perspective too. So India is quite underrepresented in terms of global markets, and I'll just give you some very interesting stats that I came across recently. That India is a house for 7.5% of population globally. We account for about 3.7% of global GDP. In terms of the quality companies, if you see, we have about 8% market share in quality companies. Now, by quality companies, essentially companies which are more than $1 billion, about 15% growth for the last 3 years in terms of ROC and revenue growth, etc. So, in terms of So those companies' point of view also we are having 8% market share. But if you look at the market cap to India's market cap as a percentage of global market cap is only about 1.7%. Now, this is where we really struggle that India, despite having done so well over the last 20 years, the best performing equity market in the world with 12% dollar return, etc. Most of the people would feel that India is an expensive market, and we have just actually got started in the last 5-6 years in terms of what the kind of retail participation that we have started seeing in equity markets in India. So what is your kind of, not generally, to fund managers will keep asking, we generally ask this question of market kaisa lagta hai, so I'll not do that to you. But what is your perspective in terms of the ongoing bull market right now between the valuations and what's the possibility for India?
I think we're doing very well. I think the numbers speak for themselves, so I don't have to comment on that. I mentioned the sentiment in China, and that is also contributing. More money is flowing in. More Indians are investing in the stock market, which is a good thing. I think in terms of policy, we need to, and these may be 1 or 2 examples, but we've seen off late, we've seen Byju's, we've seen something with Z. So I think as the focus of individuals and investors turns towards India, I think if the government, if the regulator looks at corporate governance and makes sure that investor money is secure, that will also go a long way in encouraging more people to put money.
Giving confidence to them,
yes,
absolutely.
But I think at this stage we are in a very, very good place. More countries and companies are looking to invest in India, to come to India, to do something with India. Yesterday, NVIDIA has become one of the biggest players now. It is the biggest chip maker, but it's even in terms of the value, it's growing.
And one day return, Mahesh was telling me the other day we were coming from Delhi, and he said, Pradip, just guess what is their one day return, and their one day return is higher than the total market capitalization of Reliance Industries. So absolutely the scale is like mind-blowing.
And yesterday one of their top leaders was meeting India's IT minister because they want to work with India to build sovereign AI in India. So I think the interest is very much there, and this interest will in turn bring in the money as well. What we do with it, with that opportunity then, is up to us. So I think we're poised to make this work, but where we take it is up to you guys.
Up to us. Yeah, sure. So we are in very safe hands that way, both in terms of the way our industry has evolved and the general infrastructure, whether it's the policy or the regulatory infrastructure you call, digital infrastructure you call, financial infrastructure you call, and physical, of course, we all know. I think we never had this kind of setup, and that's the reason why maybe we are commanding the valuation that we do right now. So let me just ask you before the general election related questions. I'm sure everyone would want to know your view on that. But before we get there, 50% of the world population is going to be voting this year in 2024. Are you seeing any trend in terms of how are people voting and how are, just the consumer trend or the voters trend? What are they responding to? What is their collective psychology? If you have any ideas or any inferences around that.
I'll give you an example of Indonesia. Indonesia is I think the fourth largest democracy. It's one of the bigger democracies. The biggest Muslim population in the world is in Indonesia. They voted recently. And they voted into power a man who had a very shady past. He was the right-hand man of a dictator. He was expelled from the army. And then he came back and he lost the previous 2 elections. But this election he has won, and won how? With a very good margin. He used artificial intelligence to rework his image, and had some funny dance moves, and the young people saw him as this cuddly grandpa. But more than that, what he promised was policy continuity. Indonesia has a young population. The voters apparently did not care about ideology, past. They cared about who is going to deliver growth, who will give jobs, and who will keep my country on this trajectory. I think increasingly voters are becoming more transactional in their approach, the young voters. This is my understanding. And they want to see that if I vote this person into power, what does he or she, they have figured out a way of discounting the rhetoric, because political leaders will indulge in rhetoric. But how much of that rhetoric will influence their policy is what voters are beginning to understand. And that is what they vote for. They vote for growth, they vote for security, they vote for somebody who is going to give them a better standard of life. And that is being seen across the board. Yes, a lot of countries, more than 70 according to some estimates, are going to vote this year.
50% of population, that's what my fund might just tell me. So, is India different in the way, I mean, you mentioned that voters have turned more transactional. Do you think India is in the same, Indian voters, I mean, they also kind of think alike, they are more transactional in the way they will vote, or what's your assessment on that?
I think so, and I think the parties are also, one of the more popular slogans that the ruling party has is Modi ki guarantee. What guarantee is he giving?
Transactional.
He's talking about delivering growth. So I think, and this is my reading, I could be completely wrong, but I believe that voters want to see what do I stand to gain if this person comes to power, and they vote accordingly.
So that was a little bit philosophical so far. Now a direct question. What do you think about the general election outcome?
Any journalist who tells you, it's the funny thing, everywhere we go, and India has elections all the time. You go to a dinner, you go for a lunch, you are walking your dog, somebody walks up to you and says, "Kaun jeet raha hai?"
Kaun jeet raha hai?
Anyone who gives you an answer is lying. But I think the trend is that there is going to be another term for the incumbent.
Okay, so ABCD, okay? 300 seats, 325, 350 or 400. ABCD, you can make your choice.
I am not going to comment.
No? Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay, let me try. I mean, I've just learned a little bit from you only, but I'm just an intern, so I won't be able to do as good a job as you do. But okay, will 300 and 400 make a difference in the way government want to carry out any transformative agenda? I
think even in the current parliament, they have what critics call brute majority. They have a lot of, if you want, you can push through any agenda that you want to. But you see, in our own country, with this kind of majority that the government has had, they've had to take back some of the agricultural reform. So I think in a democracy, parliamentary majority alone will not guarantee you anything, because the people will find other ways to speak. So yes, 300 for the ruling party, 400 would be better than 300, 410 would be even better than 400, whatever, the bigger the number, the better it is. But at the end of the day, I think the policies will not so much depend on how big a majority they have, as much as they would depend on what the people will welcome.
So we have already celebrated, the next term. Now we are saying, if you had a choice, what is the most transformative agenda that you would want to see if the same government is voted back to power? I think this government has done very good work on empowering women in a lot of ways, but we still have a long way to go. Okay. At the grassroots level, in the panchayat systems, a lot of women are, the first time they won an election, it was because their husband or their father had nominated them. But I think over the years, those women also understood, and not all of them, but a lot of them figured out what it meant to have that power, and went on with it. So today, if you look at participation of women in politics in India at the grassroots level, it's much higher than a lot of countries. I think we need to build on it. I think the next time I come, I want to see more women in this hall. Okay. Right? So that is one thing that I think that the government needs to keep pushing for. The second I very strongly feel about is that we cannot fall behind in our technology game. UPI has shown us that if you create inbuilt solutions to cater to your unique demands, they work and others will copy them. If we can do it with UPI, we should be able to do it with AI as well. We should be able to do it with other technologies as well. So I think it's very important for India and the Prime Minister took up the issue of deep fakes. So I think they're thinking on those lines, but we need some policies. See the women empowerment as transformative. Perfect. What about the US Security Council? I mean, how important it is to kind of secure a seat in that given the, and what is the probability you think over the next 5 years India could be part of UN Security Council?
5 years, very unlikely.
Oh.
I think because, have you heard of the Thucydides trap?
No.
So it basically talks about, and now it is used in the US-China context, it's basically about when a rising power comes on the scene, then it challenges an established power, and the possibility of conflict is that much higher. So these are all established powers, whether it's their media, whether it's their companies, whether it's their governance systems, they're all established and entrenched. The moment you challenge them, there is a conflict.
Yeah.
So this system was established after the Second World War when we were nobodies and they were the decision makers. And now in principle they say that they're open to reform, but one veto holder at least is not going to let it happen. So I think the current system is broken. We need a new system.
No.
And if that system is not going to come at the UNSC, we will create a BRICS, we will create a BIMSTEC, we will create something else. We will have our own alliances that deliver goods for us.
No. So there are alternative methods or the models which will evolve, but not necessarily the existing model of UN Security Council.
In an ideal world, we should have a place there.
What would it take for us to kind of, what could happen such that we kind of get in? What will it take for us to get in?
Xi Jinping to have a change of heart, which is not happening.
Okay, awesome. So since we are in with Mr. Xi Jinping, a little bit about Bharat-China relationship. I mean, I just heard and I was quite surprised to hear, to kind of learn that there is no direct flight between India and China right now. It's only stopovers. So I think diplomatically there is a standoff in relationship. While the trade is going up, but the relationship is kind of has turned sour or whatever. At least there is a deadlock. What do you kind of make out of this bilateral relationship?
It's very fragile. I think at the border, it cannot be a normal relationship when you have tens of thousands of troops on either side deployed in very harsh conditions. It is not normal. There is a conflict that one side wants to resolve and another side does not want to resolve. So how do you deal with that situation? And for the world, the rest of the world, our supposed allies, Russia into Ukraine is a problem, but China breathing down our neck is not so much of a problem because they're also buying things from China. How many of these countries will intervene if China were to attack? So
difficult.
I think we are at a very difficult point in this relationship. The only way out would be to build our defenses, and it beats me. I do not understand how is it that throughout the last century the many governments that we've had did not think about building infrastructure along the border.
Yeah.
Today China has built border villages and it is bringing people and putting them in the border. We don't even have roads.
Yeah.
Or we did not have electricity, we had nothing.
Roads, railways,
and now that we are building the infrastructure, it is irking the other side. So I think this is going to be a very, very difficult neighbor to deal with. And bringing down trade, bringing down the bilateral trade is going to be an ultimate goal. Right now we've only been able to ban some apps and regulate Chinese money coming into India, and even that is not okay. So I think it's going to be again a war of attrition. You poke them, they poke you back, and you try to make sure that the differences do not escalate to a point where there is a point of no return. So it's going to be a very, very tough maneuvering.
So build your defenses and just deal with it for now. No immediate solution. Fair. So it was a nice conversation. Now is going to be a rapid fire. So okay, a few questions here, and then maybe if time permits, we'll take a couple of questions from the audience. So your pick, your greater interest, Bollywood or politics?
Politics is more dramatic than Bollywood, so politics.
Okay. Okay, better for the world, Trump or Biden?
None.
None. Between the two.
Biden, I would give it to
Okay.
Biden, maybe.
Who is more likely to come back? I mean, come to power this year?
It's very hard to say, but most likely Biden.
Biden? Wow. Okay. What do you use more for in terms of decision making? Intuition or data?
Intuition.
Intuition. Wow. But you do a lot of research too, so I
I
think
do, but you know,
intuitively-
then which research do you want to use?
That's smart. Okay. You invest in mutual fund or direct equity?
Mutual funds.
Wonderful. So when you invest in mutual fund, you invest through distributor or do you invest directly?
That's a specific question. I have an advisor.
Wonderful. So invest through distributors. When you invest in a mutual fund, you invest in ABSL mutual fund or ABSL mutual fund? So two choices.
I'll take the first one.
Done. Thank you. Cutting edge research or storytelling?
Storytelling.
Wow. What's more important in storytelling, the context or the content?
The content.
The content, okay. What's more powerful, katha or kathakar?
Kathakar.
Kathakar, okay. Country borders keep changing. You think it will continue happening?
Yes.
Will it happen more because of the climate change or because of war?
Climate change going forward.
Big change, okay. What's more powerful, the number or the narrative?
The narrative.
The narrative. So narrative, tomorrow you are going to hear from Mahesh and Harish. So narrative is more important rather than the short-term numbers. So just keep that in mind. It's very, very useful thing to do. Even Palki kind of agrees with us. So if you could interview anyone, living or dead, who would that be?
Oh my God, that keeps changing, you know, depends on what I'm reading about. But I think I would want to interview Sardar Patel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay, so that's interesting. So besides, if I were Kapil Sharma, I would ask differently, but let me be straight on this here. What is the most rewarding aspect of your job? If Kapil Sharma had been here, he would say, besides talking to all of us, what is the other most rewarding aspect of your job? What would you say?
I think every day is a new day. You cannot presume that this is not going to happen. You may plan everything and then suddenly somebody is going to say something absolutely stupid and that will be news. Or someone will fire a missile at someone else, or God forbid, a plane will crash. Your job is always keeping you on your toes and helping you grow and understand the world. I think it's a very
so much like
fulfilling-
market and our job, so good. What's your go-to source for staying updated on current events? So much of content, as we kind of keep mentioning. Go-to source for updates.
I read news agencies. That's not very exciting, but
Okay, that's what you do. Wonderful. One misconception people have about journalism that you would like to debunk.
that we know who is winning the next election.
Wonderful. What do you think sets your reporting style apart from others? Your superpower, your style.
First of all, I have a fantastic team. That really sets it apart, whether people believe it or not. You have to meet those people, they're very smart. And we like to keep it simple, so that everyone understands.
So the leader talks. Wonderful. What one issue or topic you are particularly passionate about covering?
Women's leadership.
What's the most memorable interview you have conducted?
Most memorable? I have had some very weird interviews, but I think the one that I had the toughest time preparing for was the one with Parvez Musharraf, because I did not want to. It was happening at his house, so I had to be polite. But I did not want to give him space, so I had to be firm.
Sure.
So you have to really rehearse,
Strike
and
a
he's a
balance.
very, very sharp guy as well. So
Interesting. Anything, I can pause rapid fire for a moment if you want to say a little bit more about that.
no, he was, and the moment we walked in, he had this table laid with a lot of food. And how do you ask this guy, why were you killing people in your country or my country? You know, so it's tough. It takes all of your.
How did you find him as a leader? I mean, by that time I think he had retired, right? He was not a.
He had retired. He was in Dubai. He was very full of himself, I have to say.
Okay.
Like if you read his book, he says things like, "I came out with flying colors." Who says that? But I think he had very strong views about what he wanted.
Fair. So narrative overdone. So Yanambir's address at the UK Parliament. Your quick comment.
She spoke well.
She spoke well, yeah, wonderful, and she spoke good, yeah. What would you consider? Would you consider yourself as anti-West or non-West?
Pro-India.
Wonderful. And the last two questions. China attacking Taiwan in next 2 years, likely or unlikely?
Likely.
Despite all internal issues you are saying, fair. POK. Bharat regaining control over Pakistan occupied Kashmir, likely or unlikely?
Unlikely.
Wow. Okay, thank you so much, Palki Sharma. It was a wonderful interacting with you. And honestly, I must mention that I was so nervous. I told her before the interview. I think she made me a little comfortable, but very, very interesting conversation. I learned a lot, and it was my privilege to have interacted with this forum. So thank you so much for making it to our Voyage 2024.
Thank you too, and very good questions. And if you are done with Aditya Birla Sun Life, then we can talk about you joining First Post.
Thank you, thank you. I've just taken another alternative role. Now this is another alternative role coming up. Thank you so much, Palki.
Thank you so much. Both of you kindly stay back on stage. Ms. Palki, I'd like to request Ms. Kirti Gupta, our Chief Operating Officer, and Mr. K.S. Rao, our Head of Investor Education and Distribution Development, to kindly come up on stage and felicitate Ms. Palki Sharma. Kindly settle down, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Kirti? Yeah, thank you. We'll just, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Once again, thank you very much, Ms. Palki Sharma and Mr. Bhavdeep Bhatt, for an extremely interesting conversation. A lot to learn for all of us. May I now request Ms. Kamayani Nagar, our recently appointed Head of Retail Sales, Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC, to kindly come up on stage and propose the vote of thanks. And I request all ladies and gentlemen to kindly take your seats and remain settled.
गुड इवनिंग। नहीं, थोड़ा तो खाना खाया था हमने इससे पहले। गुड इवनिंग डियर गेस्ट्स, फ्रेंड्स एंड वैल्यूड पार्टनर्स, ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ आदित्य बिरला सन लाइफ एसेट मैनेजमेंट, आई एक्सटेंड माई हार्टफेल्ट ग्रैटिट्यूड टू ईच एंड एवरी वन ऑफ यू फॉर ग्रेसिंग अस विथ योर प्रेजेंस and making this curtain raiser event a resounding success. As we stand here today in our 30th year, we could not have come this far without you, your trust, your affection, and your support. Today we witness the unveiling of what's to come and the beginning of a journey filled with promise and excitement. Excitement for what we heard and what we can build together as we witness this great nation take its rightful place in the world. To our esteemed guests and partners, your presence has added immeasurable value to this occasion. Your continued support gives us the strength to dream bigger and reach higher. To our very talented speakers, the very talented Ms. Palki Sharma, your words have made such an impact, and they have inspired us to believe in the journey of our collective journey. To our tireless organizers, and all your dedication and passion has brought this event to life. Your efforts behind the scenes are well acknowledged, and we are deeply grateful for your commitment. Most importantly, to each and every one of you here tonight, thank you for your belief in us. Your presence here is a testament to the bonds we share, the strength we derive from standing together. As we look forward to the main event tomorrow, let us carry with us the warmth of this evening and the knowledge that together we are stronger than we could ever be alone. Couple of things that I took forward from Ms. Sharma's talk. There are no shortcuts to hard work. There is there is a lot of importance in resilience. Hang in there. Make opportunities, don't wait for them. Take pride in your country and in your culture. Most importantly, we will not compromise on what we think is right for us. So thanks once again for being here, and cheers to the journey ahead, filled with hope, promise, and the strength of being together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ms. Kamini. Ladies and gentlemen, the evening is yours. Dinner is served, but my humble request to all of you, kindly turn up at 8:30 tomorrow morning for breakfast and tea. We'd like to start sharp at 9:30. Good night.